I'm saying this is actually a phenomenal growth, 12%. It reminds me of the heyday probably back in the 10 years ago when China, well, first achieved a double-digit growth in the 2010, 2011, and etc. So this is actually a very, very large growth and very fast, but also is within our expectation. Probably you remembered in the 2003 when China experienced the SARS pandemic. Well, Chinese economy was getting a serious hit during the pandemic, but after that we have seen a very, very sharp and fast V-shape really, a rally of that growth back. But right now you're seeing the pandemic of COVID-19 actually is much bigger and more serious than the SARS. So the economy has suffered from a much bigger blow on it. But after that, this much bigger and faster V-shaped rally can be expected. Same situation happened in the USA and other economies who is recovering from the pandemic. So especially when the rest of the world, many parts of the world still in the lockdown and their factory is not opening. So China is showing both strengths in export and domestic consumption. So the rally is really, really, really big.
Can you dig a little deeper into the numbers, though, because there are different types of growth, as you well know. I mean, there's accelerator where people are just sick of being cooped up in their house. They're out to buy anything they can, and you know that kind of spending can't really be sustained. Then there is the sustained balanced growth. When you dig a little bit deeper into these numbers, what type of growth are we seeing?
Well, we're seeing, well, the export is actually very resilient. We're saying probably in the first half of the year or the end of the last year, the export of China is growing probably because of lockdown of the rest of the world and the factory is not opening. But continuing to this half of the year, we're seeing, well, the export is keep on coming. I think one of the most important reasons is that China actually effectively controlled the COVID-19. And well, in the rest of the world, when they have the capability of the production, many of the factories moved back their capacities back into China. They used to move into some other countries for a lower cost. But people are thinking it's not only about the cost, it's about actually about comprehensive cost, not only the man hours, not only the salary, but the comprehensive capacity of operating the whole business and the value chain. So export value chain has been coming back to China. So China has been showing this strength. But also we're seeing a very optimistic numbers in a domestic consumption. Chinese people actually after the COVID-19, they probably get a sudden understanding, well, don't work that hard. You should spend the money and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Just all kinds of sudden situation can happen.
Yeah,
but, well, I don't know what's going on, but you see the numbers telling the story like that.
Yeah, and we know in much of the world, the smaller and medium-sized businesses, they've just been beaten, battered by this pandemic. Any sense of how they're rebounding in China?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. About SMEs, well, Chinese government actually understand how important their role is. Actually, if you go to China, you'll find out 60% of our GDP is contributed by the SME and also 80% of the employment. Since we just mentioned about the graduate students and their job finding facing some difficulties. So government is issuing lots of policies to support them. For example, we give them subsidized interest rate on the loans and also give them a favorable tax rebate on them. So right now you're seeing many SMEs are trying to do their business better, and also we're seeing many graduate students register their first startups. So you're seeing many interesting enterprises are mushrooming all over China. So I think this explains some other part of the Chinese growth of the GDP recently.
Yeah, it's all